Retailing Magazine as well as NRHA. And as I said earlier, our webinar is Customer Service Standouts. In this webinar, we're going to explore customer service and what it means to have good customer service. Most of us realize that our business rests on our ability to deliver that top-notch customer service. Of course, I think every retailer that I've talked to would like to think that they deliver the best customer service, but you shouldn't just assume that it happens in your store every day. It's something you have to keep top of mind all day, every day, and that can be difficult because we all know that as customers have more options and more stores and more choices of where they shop, creating a loyal shopper usually means going the extra mile and really creating that wow factor for the customers. So what does customer service look like? And how can you see that it happens in your store every day? As you think through the process of what it takes to provide good customer service, what kinds of things should you be looking for? If you were to step back and evaluate your store's customer service, what would you look for? Well, the best way to learn is always, or often is by example. So we've assembled a panel of 3 retailers who are known in their communities for having a high level of customer service. And we want to talk with them to see what they do in their stores to make sure it happens every day. I want to go ahead and introduce them, at least a couple of them. We're still waiting for one of them. First, and as I go, our first one is Butch Vernon. And Butch, if you just want to introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about your store and kind of your customer base.
My name is Butch Vernon. I'm owner and president of Budget Home Centers of Longmont, Colorado. That's about 30 miles north of Denver. Our store is a home center store, which has a combination of about everything. We're about 80,000 square feet. We sit on about 10 acres of land, and we have about 65 employees. And we're right in the middle of between a Lowe's and a Home Depot, both within less than a mile from us. Our customer mix is about 55% a small contractor and about 45% homeowner DIY.
Okay. Thank you. We'll be hearing more from you later. Next, I want to talk with Paul Felice. Paul, would you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about Miners Ace?
Well, hi, my name's Paul Felice, Miners Ace Hardware. We have 7 stores here in the Central Coast of California. Our stores run about 20,000 square feet in size. We have roughly 300 employees. We do about 25% of our business is handyman, commercial, and 75% do-it-yourself consumer. We have, between our stores, we have 3 Home Depots, 3 or 4 Orchard Supply Hardwares, and 1 Lowe's. All our stores are separated, roughly 60 miles separate the 7 stores.
Okay, very good. Thank you much. And then our third panelist today is Willis Qualheim. Good afternoon, Willis, and would you talk about your store and introduce yourself?
You bet. Good afternoon. I'm Willis Qualheim. I'm a second generation. I have been in this for about 30 years now. We are in Shawano, Wisconsin. If you can visualize where Green Bay is, we're just west of that, middle Wisconsin. The store is 50,000 square feet. We are more than just a hardware. Of course, we have farm, clothing, pets, sporting goods, etc. I do a large lawn and garden business as well. Our competition, besides Wally World across the street here, Green Bay is probably our with be it Home Depot, and we have some Mills Fleet Farms up here, which are large and attractive supply opening right next door to us in another month. Of course, all those boxes within a half-hour drive of us, so we're a little secluded, but not really. People in this area do drive, so that's my story.
Well, thank you. All of us, all of you have your fair share of competition in your market, so we want to hear how. We'll be hearing shortly how you keep that customer service at the top, and so your customers keep coming to you instead of somewhere else. Before we get going, I want to show you just a little bit of the research that we did. We were compiling this article and the webinar, we talked to a few customers just to get their perspective on what they thought what it was about their local home improvement store that made them keep going back. And these are some of the comments that we got, and it may not surprise you, but it kind of shows you what's at the top of the mind of customers when they think about your store. A few of them, one of them said, I want to be treated like a customer, not an inconvenience. Sometimes we go to a retail establishment, sometimes you feel like the employees are a little surprised by business and you're more of an inconvenience than you are a customer, but not that way this customer visited this hardware store. So the other customers said, it makes me feel comfortable as soon as I walk in the door. This store makes me feel comfortable as soon as I walk in the door. Another customer said, my local home improvement store helps my kids make projects for school. They take time out off the floor, just a few minutes, and maybe run something through the table saw or work on a lathe for a minute. Another said they stopped by my house and showed me how to do a project. Shows a retailer going above and beyond when actually stepping out of the store and just volunteering his time to go help with a plumbing project or something. Other customers said things like, it saves me time because the staff knows what they're talking about and they have the products in stock. Just those basic things that we should be doing in our stores every day. And other customers notice when the store gives back to the community. They notice if you're in the parade or if you're having an event that supports a local nonprofit association. So these are what customers are saying. And so where do you start if you want to get that positive customer experience? I've compiled a few points, and then as we go along here, we'll get comments from our panel. It starts with the employees. If you want to look at what it takes to get good customer service, you should start with the people that have direct contact with your customers, which are your employees. Those are the face of your store, and it's where good customer service starts. So when we talk about customer service, a lot of it has to do with creating that culture within your store. So what I want to hear from each one of you is, from our panelists, what do you do to get new employees into that customer service culture? When someone hires on, kind of how do you get them indoctrinated into, this is what our store is all about? Butch, you want to lead us off with that?
We do a pretty extensive, especially for new hires, of a process of hiring them. Of course, we like to have people with experience within if possible. We especially like people with retail experience. But the most important thing when we interview people to hire new people, we look for people with good, open personalities. It seems like we can have people that know product and know a lot of things, but they're not the right person to be getting in with the public. And actually, some people are actually scared to do that later. So first we try to find the first person, and then we have usually try to put that person for the first 2 weeks with the most, what we feel like the top 2 or 3 customer service people in the store, whether it be management or whether it be to work with them one-on-one throughout the store or in a particular department in which they're at to start with. So, we feel like the best experience usually is actually just having them out there and watching how the most experienced and the real people that have it, and then of course we try to work with them to gain more product knowledge onto anything. So I think the key thing is hiring the right person. putting them training with the right person, and then offering them, putting everything possible in front of them to let them learn more.
Okay. Paul or Willis, do you have anything to add on that? Do either one of you, how do you approach training on product knowledge? Paul? Go ahead.
This is Willis. I'll reiterate what was just said. One of the biggest things is to hire for attitude and the personality. I'm looking for people persons. We found you can train most people most things, but you just can't train personality. And that's one of the big things. The other thing we do is share our strategic objective with that potential employee, so they know what we're looking for overall and where we want to get and how they're going to help us get there. Once again, and as far as the training, that's an ongoing thing, and I agree with the mentoring, where we start right away with a online training through both the Midwest Hardware Association and, of course, our True Value site and a couple other things that we use there. But the mentoring with one of our better people is probably so they can see how they're interacting and gain that experience. And product knowledge will follow. The first thing is to get them orientated and going that way.
Okay, very good. Paul, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would completely agree. We have a little different setup where with having multiple stores, we spend a lot of energy on training the management team at each store to learn how to look for that the personality, and we've on top of that, we've changed our hiring process. Each store manager will, go through interviewing processes. Then it will come to our HR person here at the corporate office, and then once that person's selected, we go through some training. The videos of the first 4 of them are on customer service. Then it's really important that we communicate our expectations to the new hires. And it's really interesting to find a lot of the managers have a tendency to look for the task-driven people instead of people that are personality-driven. And the task-driven people, while they can get a lot accomplished, don't understand how to put the customer first. And in their mind, they're just getting work done. So we've even gone as far as changing our store evaluations to get away from everything grading on tasks, and we grade on service and teach our managers to watch the staff, which is tough to do, especially in a hardware store where you're used to just working and having to sit back and observe people, and then step in right after, an interaction or after they watch 4 customers walk by and nobody said anything, to then step in and say, hey, I appreciate you getting this project done, but, we have to make sure we're paying attention to customers. So it's really complex at the more stores you get to manage that.
Right. And I do want to talk a little bit later. We're going to talk about how you step back and evaluate, because you have some good ways of doing that. The next thing that we've seen is it really helps to create loyal employees. And it kind of goes without saying, employees who are happy with their job and know their opinions are respected will provide better customer service. We've seen a link between those low turnover rates among employees and good customer service. If they stay a long time, they get to know customers. Customers will pick up on that. And if there's a bad attitude on the floor, the customer's going to pick up on that as well. So we want to talk about creating some loyal employees, as well as incentivizing employees. How do you reward employees for doing a job well done? And I know, Butch, this is from your store. You've one of your top managers there. It's like he's got Employee of the Year. You want to talk a little bit about incentivizing your employees?
Yeah, we do three different things like there. We give out yearly awards that are for Employee of the Year, Department Manager of the Year, and Customer Service Award for the year. And that's one thing. But on a thing I have instilled into all of our managers and assistant managers that one of the best things that I found right there is just praise. So if they're seeing somebody do something that is on the floor or even up in the office, if the accounts receivable and payable are doing something like there, why we try to stop and take time and say, thank you for doing a good job. We appreciate that sort of thing, and I try to do that with my managers, and then tell them to take it on down, even to the part-time employee that cleans the bathrooms. I think all of us just like to have somebody come up and tap us on the back and say thank you for doing a good job. And we like to have this happening on a daily basis across our store. Of course, we all have to always have all the negative things all the time, but sometimes we don't focus enough on the people that are really doing a good job. Sometimes they think it's just a matter of that's their duty or whatever like there, but it enthuse people and stuff like that, and you'd be surprised the look on their face sometimes when you're and saying, I appreciate you doing a good job. And also we have a board up in the time clock room. We get emails or we get letters or stuff like that have written to us about thanks, John, for helping me with this project and all, different types of things. Those things are always posted, and then we have a monthly customer service award.
Okay. Well, that certainly helps make a more positive attitude among the customers, and that comes from the staff. Paul, you have compliment forms that people in the community, the customers, can fill out to recognize employees. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Basically, what we do is anytime we get a compliment or a phone call or an email from a customer, we'll then fill out a compliment form for whomever that was and give it to them. Also, we have all our managers, as part of their responsibility is to, as we put it, catch someone doing something right. And then we give out compliment forms, which, they get posted and people get to see them. And then we do annual and or monthly and annual drawings for prizes off the compliment forms. And much like Butch said, it can be, it doesn't necessarily have to be customer service. It could be, somebody in the office taking on a project or helping out, get bills out to our customers. Then we have some pretty cool prizes at the end of the year. We give out, concert tickets on the monthly ones, and we're going to have some big stuff, TVs, iPad, vacations for year end. So that's pretty much how we use those compliment forms, and they seem to be doing really well, because much like Butch said, it's that kind of contact with the employees that they're looking for is just a little FaceTime, we call it.
Okay, and it goes a long way to, like we were saying, this whole culture of customer service where you have happy employees and they're happy because they know that they're recognized. Willis, do you have anything to add in terms of incentivizing employees or
There's just a couple little things, and I agree. Praise is one of the biggest things that I think too many of us are guilty of not giving anywhere near enough. A pat on the back sure goes a long way. A few years ago, I'd heard a little thing, and I decided since I wasn't real great at giving praise, I threw 10 nickels in my pocket every morning. I'm still doing it. And every time I can give somebody an attaboy for a good job and say, hey, I really liked the way you helped that customer, they were great, or that the way that project turned out, switch it to the other pocket. And at the end of the day, if you have any left in your left pocket, well, you probably didn't give out enough praise. We have another program, it's called the Gold Star program for our people, where they are responsible for meeting certain sales goals actually every day in the week and month, and it tallies up. And actually, based on whether they meet, when they're meeting their expectations, then there's actually monetary awards going out to them based on a lot of different criteria there. So just a couple extra things there.
Okay, very good. Well, a few other ways that we can create that culture of customer service. Leading by example. Some of the retailers I've talked with said, management should always be ready to give or to model that good customer service. I know a lot of managers are on the floor, and whether depends on, even if they're not on there for very long, if kind of I see what you're doing and practicing what you're preaching. So leading by example can help get that culture of customer service, as well as promoting open communication, having an open door policy, and let the employees know how they're doing, which comes with praise and things like reviews, including, and then also let them air their complaints or their compliments about the store. Let them know, say, you can tell me what you like or you think it should be changed. And knowing that you value their opinions also goes a long way. And then just empowering employees to do whatever it takes to resolve conflict. If a customer has a problem and he has to talk to 3 or 4 people until he gets to the manager or someone to resolve a problem, like a return or something else, it's more than likely going to make him unhappy with it. But if the employee is empowered to make those decisions on their own, or at least that they know that they have the backing of management, to a certain extent, of course, then that goes a long way towards better customer service. So panelists, do you have comments on some of these points? What are some of the things that managers or owners can do to promote that customer service, maybe in terms of the way the store operates, and help make it easier for employees to do their job? Willis, do you have any comments?
One of the biggest thing I think is the empowerment. If we're training them properly, they should be empowered to make the right decisions. And if we don't always agree with that decision, but there's a reason for it, and in their mind it was good, and it got it's good for the customer service. And leading by example, I guess, is one of the biggest things. I'm probably on the floor about half the time, and in fact, I enjoy it the most out there. So leading by example certainly is a very big thing also.
Okay. Butch, I know you're big on open communication, that open door policy. Talk a little bit about how you think that influences how employees feel and act when they're on the floor.
Well, when we do hire a new employee, and of course all the other ones do, first I tell them to try to go through the proper channels, like either their department manager or one of the assistant managers or the manager, to try to solve any problems that they might have down there, even whether it's personal or store or other people or whatever. But I found out that I set up several years ago 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon, because I also do a lot of the purchasing. So we call it got a minute time. And before that, why there were some problems or questions about things like there, people just popped in and I wanted that, but also a lot of the times why he was right in the middle of something that was very important that we were doing up here too. So I run from 10 o'clock in the morning till 12, and from 2 to 4 are times that are open. We don't have any reps. We don't have anything into the store. That anybody that's got any problems, stuff like that, are welcome to come up, and we talk about it. They got better ideas on how to do things or whatever. So 5 days out of the week, like there from that time, why anybody's welcome to walk into my office, and if there's some problem that they haven't been able to solve or have a difference of opinion or whatever, like there, at least they know. And we, no matter how trivial as it might be, I try to take the time to listen to that problem. I may not agree with them, but at least I listen.
Okay, and listening is a big part of, like you said, just you may not agree, but if you listen, that goes a long way. Paul, you have 7 stores, and I'm sure the dynamic's a little different. How do you manage? What's your response to some of these, especially since you're, you have a lot more to manage and it's a different dynamic?
Yeah, basically it comes down to the training of our managers. One of the things that we've implemented with all of our managers are what we call one-to-ones, and it's specific time they allot with each employee once every other week for 15 minutes. The idea is to find out a little bit about the employee personally, find out what the employee, how they feel they're doing at work, to give them some feedback, and also some coaching path where they, what they're going to accomplish. And then last is, correcting stuff that they've seen on the floor or giving them praise at the same time. And that's forcing the managers to manage, because it's when you want them to be just like you, it's kind of tough when they're not like how you did it when you were on the floor running the store. So that's been our, one of our biggest things. Obviously, the managers have to lead by example, and they have to, they're the ones that need to really be doing the best job on the floor, setting the tone. I would totally agree with that. But those one-to-ones have been big for us.
Okay. So we want to move on to kind of the nitty-gritty of salesmanship. Obviously, we talk about employees and kind of making them happy and loyal employees is important, but there's also that salesmanship skills and techniques that it takes to be the best at customer service. We do have, just kind of as a side note, a complete overview on salesmanship and customer service on our basic training in hardware retailing, which is available online. We have 2 of the modules of that course are dedicated solely to salesmanship, or one is dedicated to salesmanship and the different elements of being a good salesperson. But there are also other few key points that we'd like to offer here. And we want to start with when you open the conversation, the customer comes into the door, you greet the customer. There are panelists that talk about how you coach employees to greet the customer and get that conversation going about their project. It has to do with the way you ask questions and also being proactive about selling. Butch, would you start us off with talking about kind of how you coach your employees to greet the customer?
Well, the very first thing we do is we tell them not to use the word "how can I help you?" Or do you need? What can I do to help you? Or stuff like that. Anything that they can open up with that the customer can say no to, what we don't want to use. So we have made buttons and the opening line to people that come into the store always is, "What's your project today?" And we have little buttons that say that on all the people that are on the floor. And so we've trained everybody for years, like it there, that's the opening question. And that opening question seems to get how trivial it is. They just might need a paintbrush. Who knows? But at least they usually answer in the form of, I got to paint some trim today, or I'm doing a remodel of a bathroom, and that opens it up to suggestive selling, because they obviously come in at least for one or two or three items, probably, but then that opens it up. Do you also have? And so we school our people as much as possible to, we'll do in store meetings. I'll tell a person, I'm selling a toilet today. Give me in 1 minute. Why give me 10 items that you need to sell along with that? And
okay.
So if they have an idea that they do not high pressure sales but suggestive sales onto that. I don't allow high pressure type sales. I don't like it, and we don't do that. But I think the best opening question that we have ever come across is, what's your project today? And then we actually put the little buttons on their shirt that, along with their name that says that same question. Okay.
Paul, do you have any comments?
Yeah, we similar, open-ended question. We've adopted the "What can I help you find" as our opening question. That's a good one, just to get them going. It's not a yes or no, and also having them identify the customer. That's really helped. Identifying if this person's a mission shopper, if this is a contractor that's coming in to get a thing of glue, and he doesn't want 14 people asking him for help. If it's the do-it-yourself or project customer that is going to need some attention, or if it's the browser that's just coming in, that's grabbing the shopping cart in your ad and hitting every aisle and cruising the store. So kind of goes back to training, working with our staff to understand the different types of customers, and then the question, asking the right open-ended question, which is surprisingly harder than we'd anticipated to get them to do. And even we're in that role, you still you revert back to what do you need help with, and you're not, you're closing it out. So it's been a struggle to finally get people to the point where now they're asking the open-ended questions. So.
Okay. Well, what do you have to add?
And the same thing. I agree with Butch. We try to, in fact, have pretty much mandated it. They are to open with a non-business line opening. How's it going today? And especially if they know them by name, strike up a conversation to build that rapport with the customer. And then, of course, the next one is the obvious one. What project are you working on today? That's a non-negotiable standard that they're asking that versus, may I help you, or what can I help you with? And I try to, in the training and the open-ended questions, yes, and knowing what they're going to, or anticipating their needs for the add-on sales, etc. And we try to impress upon everyone here that we're providing solutions. We're not selling merchandise. We're providing a solution to that customer.
Okay. There's also something to be said about the perception of service that you have. There are some parts of that customer service experience that seem to matter more than others. No one wants to wait in a checkout line, and so there's one retailer that will throw all of his staff at the checkout if there's just a few people there, so there's not people waiting in line. It's also important to say under promise and over deliver. If you have a screen that's going to be repaired and it's going to take you 3 days, maybe tell the customer it's going to take you a week, and then have it delivered in 3 days. Don't do it the other way around. Always make sure that you're over delivering and you're setting yourself up to do that. I want to hear from our panelists. Are there certain parts of the customer experience, like a service experience, like the checkout line, that are more important than others, and kind of how do you manage that and make sure that experience is a positive one? Willis, let's go back to you.
Well, I think every touch point that the customer has should be a positive experience. But in this case, I'm going to have to agree that, in my opinion, the checkout is probably the most important touch point for the customer, because that is the last person they see before they leave that store. And if they had 3 great experiences with 3 great associates throughout the store and their visit, and they leave with a sour taste because of the checkout experience, I don't know that customer's coming back, or it's going to take quite a bit to get them back. So I think that's one of the most important areas of the shopping experience.
Okay. Butch, do you agree, disagree, or do you have another point that might be a different high-sensitive area?
I agree wholeheartedly in that, the way our store is laid out, like there, usually the first person that they see when they come in and the last person they leave is the cashiers. And again, go back to hiring practices. You got to have people that are bubbly and want to be around people and to do this. And also, one of the things even to myself, I don't get to spend a lot of time on the floor, but every person in the store knows how to run the register. We train them that every person, even a outside person in the lumber yard has been trained sometime or another, like if they're on running a register, so that there has to be a moment when you got 20 people in the store that's all at once. I'm sure we've all experienced this. That wants to check out they come in at the same time and left at the same time. That you have ample places and ample people, and we train those cashiers to over the intercoms and stuff. That once they get more than 3 or 4 people in line, like there, to start hollering for help, like there. That's the last thing we want, is people having to wait to be checked out.
Okay, and that's part of that cross-training. It's part of training. It's making sure that everyone can work around the store. Paul, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, they pretty much covered it. That's one of the first things we do in our training, is everyone that gets hired gets trained on the register for the same reason. We're known as a convenient hardware store, and with convenience, I mean, we have to be able to get them in and out quickly. That's really critical. The only other thing that we really do is we schedule for the customer. So when we schedule the entire store, we look at the sales and the customer count per hour in order to place our schedule or build our schedule. That seems to help, instead of just blindly scheduling. Everyone has the same days off, or the Friday, Saturday off, and Sunday, Monday off. That was always been our way we'd done stuff in the past. And so scheduling for the customer helped us increase our service levels for sure.
Okay. Well, the next point I want to talk about, we mentioned that sometimes it takes it helps to step back and kind of look through your customer's eyes or look through someone else's eyes to evaluate your store. How do you evaluate how your store is performing? Paul, I know that you use secret shoppers. Maybe kind of talk a little bit about that and how that helps you take a step back and look at your store.
Yeah, we've had real good luck with the secret shopper. We have our independent company that we've hired to do secret shops. They evaluate the presentation of the store from the outside, what we call the seasonal impact as they walk into the store, end caps and signage, how many seconds, I mean, we have it down to seconds, how many seconds until they were greeted. And then on top of that, if they were greeted, did someone follow through? So how long did it take for that person to follow through to take you to the right area? And then we go through did they ask for related items to complete the project? Did they inform you of an upcoming sale? And then right back to the register, where how long did it take once you got to the registers to get checked out? How many cashiers were, or how many registers were open? Did they ask for your ACE Rewards card? Did they ask you to return? Did they thank you for shopping? So we have two different companies doing that for us. We get each store shopped twice a month per company. And that's been really good for us to at least be able to have the conversations with people, because one of the things that we all tend to do is fool ourselves into thinking we're the best at service, and that's really helped us stand back and look at what we do and how we do it and how we evaluate our staff.
Okay. Butch, do you have anything to add, or do you have any ideas or ways that you evaluate your store kind of from a distance?
Well, we had the same service or same type of service later up until about 2 years ago, and the company went out of business, and I haven't been able to find another one in our area that does that. If somebody has some ideas, why, I would like to know them. But since then, I've tried to come across to our managers to and all the people in the store to walk into the store as a customer rather than an employee. But also we put out all over the store different little places to put comments or whatever. My name, the store manager's name, and our home phone numbers are posted around the store. If you want to call us with any type of comment or problem or anything like that to talk to us about, which I've gotten calls at home. But I would like to get back to having an independent company oversee it, because we got some good help for a number of years that it kind of tailed off a little bit, and then the company went out of business. So we have been actively trying to get something like that going again. But I think that's probably one of the best ways, because even myself, as I comment, sometimes we trip over our own too before. Yep.
Willis, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I do. We have a program called the Customer Experience Program, of course, in the back of our receipts. It's been going on for close to a year now. Previously to that, we used Mystery Shopper, which didn't really do anything for me, didn't tell me anything. What this scorecard does for us, like our cashiers are trained when they're done with their visit to say, please tell us how we did today, turn over your receipt and tell us how we did, and have a chance to win $1,000 or an iPod or whatever it might be by just going online and taking 3 minutes to tell us how we did today. What was really interesting on this is just the overall success of the business, and I won't go into this whole thing, but just the initial overall success. There's 7 items they rate us on. 1, the store's convenient hours of operation. 2, shelves well stocked. Advertised items weren't stocked. Organized, clutter, blah, blah, blah. It was a real eye-opener for me and showed me different areas that we had to really start to focus on, because what I perceived that we were doing is not what evidently some of the customers were perceiving. So it's an eye-opener, and I think we all need to do that just to so we can improve.
Okay, that's a good point. Before we move on to kind of our final comments, we had one question here that talked about what kind of incentives or what type of incentives do you offer for monthly customer service awards. I think, Paul, you mentioned that if customers or the employees throw all those compliment forms into a hat and they get drawings monthly, and those were mainly prizes. Does anyone offer any other type of incentive for customer service awards? Yeah, just open it up to anyone who might have another answer to that question. Yes.
Other than this is Butch. Other than the awards, we give out a gift card to one of the local restaurants in town. We wake it up, but we try to do it with a local type rather than a chain type restaurant like there. But in our, I think the most valuable thing that probably you can do is within our biweekly store meetings like it there. Why the very first thing that is in our meetings is to the person that's selected for this like it there, and tell them what they've done and put them above the whole staff like there, put them on a pedestal. And I think it probably does more than anything else.
Okay. Willis, do you have any other answers to that question?
Well, other than the thing I mentioned briefly before with our Gold Star program, which is based on their selling, and of course, then they, based on number of Gold Stars they get in a row, that's where they start to get some monetary incentives. And that program's twofold, of course, not only to incentivize the associate, but also to show us those that need more help, so that we can devote more coaching to the other people. But it's monetary, based on them meeting their sales goals.
Okay. Well, thanks so much. Kind of in wrapping up, I want to hear from each one of you again if there's any closing thoughts, if any kind of what's important or anything that we may have missed that you think is essential to providing good customer service. And here we have the staff at Qualheim True Value. Willis, do you want to just kind of any closing comments from you?
My biggest thought there is to develop a relationship with that customer. You want to develop a customer that is loyal to you and really doesn't want to go anywhere else. But for you to win that loyalty, that's at the store level. That is our job, to be able to win that loyalty, and to do that, we have to really excel at what we do.
Okay, thanks. And Butch, Vernon here at Budget Home Center, you have any closing thoughts for us?
Well, all of these things have been fantastic things to do it, but it has to become operational every day. You just, when the old saying is, when employees come to work, we don't know at 7 o'clock when we open up whether this gentleman or this woman had a fight with her spouse or girlfriend or whatever, like there, that how their performance is going to be that day, in the store. So, we tell them that everybody, including myself, will have personal problems or different things that come about, like there, but you have to set those things aside, and here we are. We have a job to do, and we need to do it, and do it to the best of our ability, and it has to be emphasized and taken care of by either yourself or the managers or the floor managers every day, not just on Tuesday or Thursday. Does it have to be reminded? It has to be brought up, talked about, and done every day, or no matter what kind of policy or anything that you do that you want to do, if it's not followed up and held up with, it's probably not going to work.
Okay. Thank you. And Paul Felice at Miners Ace Hardware, here's your staff, and any closing comments from you?
No, I think Butch and Will said it well. We got to stay consistent, both in our message to our staff and as far as letting them know what's the most important thing, and that is the customer service and the high customer level, and that we continue to keep that in the forefront when we're going store to store, and not get them too task heavy, so to speak, so that they can keep that focus on the customer. I'd agree. It's so important that we have the stuff, the 7 items that Willis was asking the customers about. Your in-stock position, are hours good? Those kind of things are huge, because it's that's where we really trick ourselves and thinking that we're doing a great job and getting those having those questions answered is very beneficial.
Okay. Kind of as a closing, we had one closing comment on our from one of our listeners, and this is kind of geared towards Butch, but it could be anyone who's listening. This particular person uses ICCDS for their secret shopper service, and their website is iccds.com. I don't know if that's a regional or if it's national, but that was a comment that one of our attendees.
ICCDS?
Yes, I, and then ccds.com.
Okay.
So that was anyone else who may be looking for secret shopper services, and that is a comment from our listener. We thank everyone for attending. I want to thank each of our panelists for their comments and for their time, and we will be back next month with another webinar. And we thank you for listening, and we hope you have a good rest of the day.